What is time? I know it's a cliche, but really, what is it? It's one of those words that uses a vocalization to reference a phenomena we don't understand rather than one that we do. The dictionary describes it as a finite or continuous duration, and then proceeds to define a duration as a length of time. Unfortunately, this tells us less about the time and more about the dictionary. Some people would, as they do, say that this is a question for philosophy, and should be left up to the deep thinkers of old, and those who quote the deep thinkers of old. This, however, is another case of philosophy eating a question that does not belong to it. The other examples include the paradox of the heap. That's a language problem. Heap doesn't refer to a specific number or threshold. It's just sort of an issue with that particular word. Or, if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? Conservation of energy should clean that one up fairly quickly. But no. Despite the vague sound of it, what is time is a question for physics. According to classical physics, time is a dimension. Now, you might say, wasn't it Einstein who came up with the concept of dimensional time? To which I say, shh, let me explain. And please stop interrupting my writing. You make me sound like I have an invisible audience voice in my head, stuck in there like a second personality. To which you would respond, but you do. You're actually talking to yourself in the middle of a whatever this is. To which I respond, well, that wouldn't be such a problem if you would stop talking. To which you would rightfully conclude, I'm actually just a voice in your head. I don't have any meaningful agency. Any consequences are your own responsibility. In classical physics, the universe is like an animation going at infinity frames per second. Time is universal, but only in your frame. Not in your frame of reference, that's a distinct concept, but a frame as in a frame in the animation metaphor. Each frame contains a set of whatever we've figured out the universe is made of, each with a position in X, Y, Z, and T. Now, instead of a set of successive states, time could be just another one of these dimensions, creating a universe that is simply a static four-dimensional object. Each moment we experience is simply a cross-section of that four-dimensional object. From this, we come to the startling conclusion that time isn't special. One could take a cross-section along any axis, seeing the universe as a sequence of frames of X, Y, Z, and T, all changing with X. The only reason we see time as special is the arbitrary workings of our brains. That, of course, is just classical physics. In our modern understanding of physics, things get slightly more complex. Space and time bend in ways that seem unique. The frame analogy breaks down when we realize that time and distance aren't universal, and now depend on frame of reference. Unfortunately, my knowledge of this subject is incomplete. I don't really understand general relativity or a whole lot of that sort of thing. Regardless, I believe this ramble has come to a conclusion, having wasted enough of your time to get a better grasp on what it is. Time is the coordinate that we experience but cannot observe. I know it's sort of unorthodox to stick your thesis at the very end, but I figured I'd sum it up in sort of one sentence. In fact, this whole ramble could have been that one sentence. That's kind of all it was, but then I had to attempt fleetingly to be even somewhat interesting to listen to. I failed naturally. This sort of pre-rant ramble, totally unscripted. In case you weren't wondering, were you? No, you clearly weren't. That was entirely a failure on my part, I'm afraid. No, I'm just talking to myself in front of a computer. I'm probably not going to use any of this ever, but, probably listen, cringe slightly at myself. Hi, myself from the future. How are you doing? Do you like this sound?